Hey, I'm up here to present another opinion from a way bigger social media wrestling commentator than I am in just a second. But basically, concerning this whole situation about possibly Sasha Banks and Naomi returning, another clue is the fact that they are now bringing back the women's tag team championship. That's another sign that this is definitely going down. And as for the possible return of Sasha Banks and Naomi, I think it's a bigger deal for a career wise between the two women. It's a bigger deal for Naomi to go back to WWE than it is Sasha. You've heard me say this. But I think it's a bigger deal for WWE to get Sasha Banks back. And for those of you that says, oh, she's a quitter, she walked out. How many of you same guys, and even I criticized her and Naomi for just walking out on the job like that. But given what we found out afterwards, some of the shady stuff pre-Triple H that WWE, specifically Vince McMahon and his crew did, can you really blame them? I still think it was wrong, but can you fault anybody for walking out of an environment like that? And my bigger issue was always with the fans. Is that, wait a minute, you didn't go in on Stone Cold like that years ago. For the most part, you didn't go in on CM Punk until well after he did it. And nobody's really gone in on Toni Storm, and she virtually did the same thing. And I don't care if she wasn't in a big spot or not. I don't care. Fact is, she did that, but there was not the same energy. And I know I've repeated it in other videos, but I'm gonna say it again. Naomi is a grown woman. She was not manipulated into leaving by Sasha to leave with Sasha Banks. That's just fans who already don't like her for whatever reason. Some reasons are valid, and some of them aren't. But nevertheless, there are fans that already have a bias against her, and this is just another dig at them. You should have had the same energy for both women. But that said, I'm glad to see I'm not alone in that WWE would be fools at this point from a PR standpoint and from a business and in-ring product. They would be fools not to at least attempt to get Sasha Banks back. And I'm not alone on this. What I'm about to play is an audio from Jason Solomon, better known as the Solomonster, from his recent podcast of him going over SmackDown and AEW Rampage from this past Friday. If you want to hear the whole thing, y'all can go to his YouTube channel. He's got it up right now. I'll even leave a link in the comment section. Y'all can go there right now and see that. But anyway, here's an excerpt from where he is talking about the women's tag titles and primarily Sasha Banks and what her options are.
This is the part in the show where Michael Cole made the announcement here about the women's tag team titles. For those who came into the stream late, we did get an announcement here on this show that they are, in fact, bringing back the women's tag team titles. They were not melted down into a chain. They were not burned. They were not dumped in the trash like Cora Jade, like what she did with the NXT women's tag team title belt. They're bringing them back. And interesting timing, given all of the rumors swirling about Sasha Banks and Naomi, who were stripped of those titles. They were the last women to hold those tag team titles. Supposedly, the entire reason they even left was all based around the booking of the women's tag team titles and how they were being treated and booked on the television show. Sasha Banks had other issues with the company. There's not a doubt in my mind. It's not just about the women's tag team titles. She doesn't walk out just because she showed up to work one night and they were doing something and they were marginalizing the women's tag belts. There were other issues at play. The women's tag team belts, that was just the tip of the iceberg. That was the tipping point. So, have they resolved those issues? Where is her head at? Is she coming back? Is she not coming back? Is she going to test out free agency? We don't know. Everybody's been speculating about this. Even the wrestling media, Meltzer and Sean Ross Sapp and all these people, all the reports, they're always so murky about, they may or may not be coming back. Raj Giri was the one who came out weeks ago and said Sasha got her release. Her lawyers negotiated her release from the company, and she is officially gone from WWE. But there was never any official word about that. People shit on him for it. I saw Sean Ross Sapp a few days ago said that however this all plays out, that the Raj Giri report was accurate. So it's very possible and very likely that Sasha did get her release. That doesn't mean she can't come back because things have changed. Vince McMahon is no longer in the driver's seat. Triple H is. Very different situation now than the one that Sasha and Naomi left when they walked out back in May. And as I think about where they could go, what are they going to do? Obviously the real main option would be AEW because Sasha and or Naomi, where else are they going to go where they're going to have even remotely the same level of visibility? They're not going to go to MLW. They're not going to go to Ring of Honor, which is basically AEW. They're not going to go to Impact. I do think that Sasha would probably love to wrestle some of those, top Japanese ladies. And I mentioned the IWGP Women's Championship that's debuting in November, and I think that would look great around the waist of Sasha Banks. And I think that that's something maybe that she would aspire one day to be, is the IWGP champion. But where is the best landing spot for Sasha and Naomi? Things never should have gotten to this point where they even walk out. Sasha Banks is a star. I'm not saying this to mean that Naomi isn't. Sasha Banks is a bigger star than Naomi. Sasha Banks is among the greatest women's wrestlers currently in the world. I believe that. All the big matches that I have seen her have in WWE are far and away some of the best women's matches in this company in the last 5, 6, 7 years. She has been part of a lot of them. Some of my favorites. And there's no reason that this woman should be so unhappy that she just walks out on the company and says, you know what, I don't want to be here. Triple H can help repair that bridge. And if they can get Sasha Banks back, they would be crazy not to get her and Naomi back in the fold as soon as possible. Not to bring them back and embarrass them, not to bring them back and punish them, but to bring them back, work things out and say, look, we have a spot for you here on the show. We have an idea on how to feature you. Here's what we're going to do. Let's get back to work. Let's get you guys back in the mix. The best thing for WWE would be to get Sasha Banks back and Naomi back. Get them back on TV. I also think it's the best thing for them. Because they're not going to get the level of visibility that they would have in WWE anywhere else. And in AEW, it is 50-50. And I said this when they first walked out. I would love to see Sasha Banks come into AEW. And she walks in there, she automatically on day one becomes the biggest star in that women's division. Tony Khan maybe now because she is such a big name and wants to feature her. Just by virtue of her being there, maybe it gives more television time and more attention to the women's division. When I say that she could be a difference maker there, that's what I mean. But only if Tony Khan were to see it the same way, and all of a sudden the women start to get more time and we see Sasha on television every week. She's wrestling one woman, she's wrestling another woman. She could be a huge difference maker as far as how that division is presented. But it was always 50-50. Sasha could just as easily go there and just get lost in the shuffle. How often do we see Ember Moon on television? Not very often. Maybe she's like Ember Moon where she debuts, makes a big splash, and then we barely see her on TV. She's wrestling on Rampage. So it was always going to be a risk. Just because, she would go there doesn't mean that she's going to be a big, big name. WWE should be doing everything in their power to get them to come back. They may already have agreed to come back. It may already be a done deal, just like Cross. Look how quickly he popped up on TV. Who knows when that deal was made? Maybe they made the deal yesterday. I'm sure more details on that will come out in the days to come. But there's been a lot of chatter about Sasha and Naomi. This, to me, and the timing of the announcement about the women's tag team titles coming back, feels to me like this is a way to reintroduce Sasha and Naomi back to the WWE roster. I do believe they're coming back. I do believe we're going to get them back on TV very soon, possibly as soon as this Monday. Whether they're in the tournament or not, I think that they are on their way back.
Well, that's pretty much all on this video. I will say, though, the only other place I could see Mercedes Bernardo, a.k.a. Sasha Banks, going maybe is New Japan, because she's always expressed wanting to work with the Japanese women. She's always expressed that. But major splash-wise, let's be honest. Impact can't afford her. AEW can, but AEW won't necessarily. It's a 50-50, like Solid Monster said. They might do something with her one week, and then you might not see her for months on television. So I don't think she would be happy there very long. I think she'd be wanting out of there quicker than any dispute she may have had with WWE. So I guess it's just a wait and see now. Anyway, that's all I got to say on this. I'm out.